Sajid spoke with Ankur Kothari, the CEO of Kusumgar, to understand the company's outlook on revenue growth and on revenue growth, and of course the overall growth roadmap ahead. Listen in.
The company manufactures engineered fabrics and aerospace and defense solutions. We are specialized in certain technical materials through which we make specialty fabrics primarily for military, for aerospace and automotive and active wear segments. Essentially, the kind of products that we try to do are highly technical and that have high barriers to entry. We have seen a very strong growth over the last few years, and we have a very strong pipeline of products as well as customers lined up. So we are very hopeful and excited for the future.
You spoke about aerospace and defense primarily linked to military. I was looking at the entire portfolio that you have there. It's a portfolio which is very difficult to enter because there's a high entry barrier for you, and also one of the reasons is that the approvals take at least 2 to 10 years to come through. Give us a sense of the kind of growth that you have been seeing in the aerospace and defense segment, especially the fabric and the solution segment.
Sure. I think if you look at both the Indian aerospace and defense industry as well as the global aerospace and defense industry, they both are growing very fast. I think geopolitical tensions that's around the world, but also the coming of the aerospace and defense supply chains into India. Both of these will lead to very strong growth. If you look at how the defense spending in India and in the world has shot up since 2020, that will give you an indication of the exciting growth prospects we have for the future.
Give us a sense of the kind of order book that you're sitting in at the beginning of FY27.
Yes. We have a very strong order book for FY27. And in fact, we are looking to grow in a good way compared so I think similar to how we have historically grown over the last few years, we hope to be able to continue the same growth trajectory in FY27.
Typically, when you get these orders, how much time, what is the timeline for delivery of these orders? Are these long duration orders or short duration orders?
That's a great question. We basically get two different kinds of orders. There is one set of orders which is more, so actually three different kinds of orders to be precise. In my aerospace and defense business, we either get between 3 to 6 months or close to 9 to 12 months, right? There are two different kinds of orders. Some are smaller, which we are able to execute faster. And then there is sort of the larger orders are in the 9 to 12 month range. Typically orders don't tend to exceed more than that. However, for my industrial activewear and sort of my exports, business, we get a longer, what I would say, visibility, right? So you end up getting projections at the beginning of the year, but monthly orders or, irregular, orders coming in during the course of the year, but with projections at the beginning of the year for capacity planning purposes.
Interesting. While I understand that from the aerospace and defense point of view, these are orders that may be short or long duration. How do you, manage the entire order flow in that sense? Are these proper supply agreements that you sign it, or is it on a month to month that you are putting in invoice, bidding for these orders?
So for the aerospace and defense, again, right, as I said earlier, there are sort of more regular orders that are happening, sort of every month, 2 months, etc. And then there are sort of one-time large orders where sort of we get, let's say, an 8 to 12 month period. There we recognize revenue once we ship the goods, right? So it may take longer to execute. So you do get quarter to quarter lumpiness in the business as some of these large orders ship.
Give us a sense of your profile for the outdoor and the lifestyle fabrics, where you have, I think, if I'm not wrong, Decathlon is one of your clients for there. How is it growing? It's, I think, relatively new division for you as well.
That's right, Saji. Thanks for asking this question. Activewear is one of my favorite segments. So I think typically the end products that we end up serving are shorts, so athletic wear, right? Sportswear and sort of weather proofing products. So this would be shorts, track pants, winter jackets, rainwear, and those kinds of things, right? So, manufacturing very high technical fabrics, which essentially before, the recent arrival of these brands was imported into the country, right? So people like us have started making these fabrics in India. And increasingly, we even look at exporting these products, right? So for India, from importing athleisure and active wear to potentially even exporting, it's been a very exciting journey. We would like global brands to start shifting their supply chains to India, and we are very hopeful about the new FTAs that we hope are coming in the near future. That should boost this segment significantly.
Okay, interesting. You said that. I just wanted to get a hold of the kind of revenue growth that you have seen in the last 3 years. Between FY26 and FY25, means you had a good growth coming in from 24 to 25, but from 25 to 26, there is a dip in your revenues as well as your profitability. So is it, linked to order book which is coming in? How do you streamline that entire order book so that you have a sustainable growth?
Sure. I think there will always be a certain part of my business that will, have an element of lumpiness, right? Obviously, it's a minority of my business, but, if those orders get shifted from sort of one quarter to another quarter, or sort of, and then, the move changes from FY, you can see that, there is a variation across years. I would prefer if people were to, sort of look at our business on a longer term growth trajectory, because, while we do want to bring more and more and reduce the volatility of our business, I think some of the end markets that we end up serving are lumpy. And so there will always be a certain amount of lumpiness in my business, while a majority of my business is more straight and predictable.